the new Freak Athlete Hyper Pro. Supposedly 9 machines and one, and it can do over 20 different exercises. Now, massively huge fitness YouTubers are quick to dazzle you with special effects, B-roll, and massive praise for the Hyper Pro right before they tell you their discount code and that you can find their affiliate link in the description. Well, this is the review of the Hyper Pro that Freak Athlete doesn't want you to watch. The No Fate channel, checking in. Jonathan here, and in a home gym, you need pieces of equipment that perform multiple functions and don't take up a whole lot of space. Unfortunately, life isn't always
ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
And when companies promise you the world when it comes to their pieces of equipment, they seldom deliver. So when Freak Athlete promises that their Hyper Pro is going to replace 9 commercial grade machines in your home gym, you are right to be skeptical, especially when you see every massive fitness influencer seeming to only use their Hyper Pro the day that they filmed the video. The good news is that the Hyper Pro does replace 9 machines, and the bad news is that some of their claims are slightly exaggerated. Let's start this video off on a positive note. My longtime subscribers know I get tons of equipment in my home gym.
I'm kind of a big deal.
But I can't keep it all, and most of it quickly leaves. But I will tell you, the Nordic Hyper Pro, I've had it for over a year, and it gets used. It gets used like a rental car, like an Airbnb. I use it 5 out of every 6 workouts, and many times I'll use it for different exercises in a single workout. Now, I got their older version, and it's still running and gunning and handling anything and everything I throw at it. But the engineers over at Freak Athlete went ahead and released a brand new version. The engineers over at Freak Athlete aren't human. They don't have feelings, they don't take vacations, they don't have any family time. They have one mission, one goal, and that is to improve their flagship product, the Hyper Pro. And their latest iteration does exactly that. Number one, it actually adds color to the handles. Not that big of an improvement, but it does help cut down time when changing from one exercise to another. They upgraded all of the pads across the board, not just on the covering, which is now a much more premium feel, but also on the density of the pads themselves. And I'm not just talking about the base pad. I'm talking about the GHD pad. I'm talking about the leg raise pad across the board.
Well, I'm the best there is, plain and simple.
They even added extra stabilization in the rear, both during use so that you don't actually have to add any additional weight to hold this thing down, but also extra stabilization when it is stored vertically. They exponentially improved the GHD pad. No longer is it held together with a hope, a prayer, and some Velcro. It now locks directly into the Freak Athlete, and it's thicker, bigger, and denser. Everything you wish you were. Plus, it's got that...
and it feels different. It feels fantastic.
Beautiful padding. But wait, there's more. They have also created, designed, and produced a leg extension and leg curl attachment that doubles as an upper body trainer. Freak Athlete claims this machine can do well over 20 different exercises with all of their different attachments. And I'll tell you straight away, yes, this thing can handle probably 30 or 40 different variations of exercises, but they may not all be done well. By far and large, the #1 exercise on the Hyper Pro has to be the Nordic curl. Not only does it beat out all of the other competition that I have reviewed on this channel for a straight basic Nordic curl, it allows you to scale the exercise. Now, we all know Nordic curls are exceptionally difficult. You can add bands in order to kind of do a negative resistance to kind of remove some of the weight as you go down, but that tends to be cumbersome and slightly annoying. This allows you to adjust up to any type of angle you want. Everything as low as 5 degrees, all the way up to like 45 degrees. It allows you to learn to do the Nordic curls over time because you can adjust that height as you become more proficient. And for you absolute alphas, you Navy SEAL, Delta Force, bad mama jammers, you can even do decline Nordic curls to just absolutely wow all of your friends and the 5 people that follow you on Instagram. GHD sit-ups, forget about it. They are wonderful on the Hyper Pro. Now, there is a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to going from one exercise to positioning it to another, but over time, like 2 weeks, you're gonna get it down that it's only gonna take you 5 to 10 seconds tops. And the beauty of this, because it has so many different angles of adjustment, if you were looking to kind of basically scale the exercise so that you don't have to go that far back, you don't have as much flexibility in your lower back as you wish you had, you can adjust it to your liking. Lower back raises and lower back extensions are another thing that this piece of equipment delivers on. And I will tell you that most of you are not going to go out and buy a specific specialized piece of equipment to do lower back raises. But if you have it in-house, absolutely, you are going to use it. Now, I do have one small minor complaint because, listen, we do honest reviews. When you go down, if you're tall like me, 6'1", 6'2", you're gonna find that this little clip here, this bolt here, is gonna be right where your noggin is. Look where my hands are, and hopefully you can see where my head is. Now, is that an issue? Not really. I've never hit my face, never come close, and you certainly can manage it. It is a little disconcerting when you go down and you see that thing. Now, sometimes if you're really concerned about it, you could put like a little bit of a yoga mat over it, or you could put like a bumper plate there. But at the end of the day, it's not a major concern, but it's just something you happen to notice when you go down. One thing I was absolutely certain would be a total piece of was the hip thrust pad. And as my wife is always quick to point out, I was totally wrong. I love doing hip thrusts on the Freak Athlete Nordic Hyper Pro. Reason being, you typically at your home gym are doing hip thrusts off of the side of your bench. It's awkward. You've got one fixed height regardless of how tall or short you are, and it doesn't feel comfortable. It's an edge of a bench, whereas this has a rolled pad, and you can adjust the height to help better align it with how you want to do your hip thrust. Now, I will say the previous model had one slight issue in that this little bolt here was facing out, so that if you had your back a little too close to it, you were going to find you hit it accidentally. Well, as I mentioned, the engineers don't sleep. They fixed it. You can now put it on either side, either direction. And yes, I can positively confirm, if you like to question your life choices, you can do split squats on this as well. Reverse hyperextensions on the Hyper Pro is right around where the marketing team starts to blur the lines. In a standard reverse hyperextension machine, you have weights attached to your leg so that when your weights come down, your spine is pulled away from your upper body, creating almost like a traction or a spinal decompression. Now, in this machine, there's no weight pulling you down except for the weight of your legs. So you're not going to get that spinal decompression that a lot of people love in their reverse hypers. No! You can add resistance using bands to this, but that resistance is going to be on the top end. Well, I don't know if you could legitimately call this exercise a reverse hyperextension. I will tell you that I love to do it, and I use it at least once a week to light up my lower back like a Christmas tree and do preventive maintenance on my herniated disc. Another small lie that Freak Athlete tends to tell you is that you can do these reverse hypers regardless of your height. If you're 6'7", if you're 6'9", if you are lying about your height on your grinder profile, you could do these no problem. Well, I'll tell you straight away, there's a problem. I'm only 6'1", and I cannot do a full range of motion. You can see that when you get up into this position, your feet are clipping the bottom, so that when you come up and come down, you either have to control your negative so that you don't hit the bottom, or you've got to just hit the bottom. Now, what I do to combat this is to simply put this into a decline position. Well, let me show you. Now, I know this looks a little freaky deaky and probably reminds you of a Pulp Fiction scene you wish you never saw, but I will tell you this feels great on my lower back on this bottom stretch, and I get a beautiful range of motion without having to limit how I kind of do the descension part. And it is a great exercise that I'm telling you feels great on the lower back and is a real way to just light that bad boy up. Leg extensions and leg curls, the home gym unicorn. For many people, we want that local gym machine feeling when it comes to training legs, but we don't have the money or the space to buy selectorized, dedicated pieces of equipment for our leg extensions and leg curls. As you've probably already guessed from the B-roll that I've sprinkled into today's video, I don't have the leg extension or leg curl attachment. I will say the most honest reviewer out there is Gluck's Gym, and his video of the Hyper Pro was very good. I'm gonna put it in the description right next to my affiliate link. But he did say that the resistance curve on the leg extension machine attachment was very good and probably one of the better ones that he's experienced. Three problems I see with their leg curl and leg extension attachment are that, number one, they claim it can be done in terms of getting it into position in only 5 seconds. And unless your name is Barry Allen, that ain't ever gonna happen.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
When it comes to transitioning the Hyper Pro from any position into another position, it does take time. But that time does get reduced as you get more used to this piece of equipment. And ultimately, it ends up taking like 10 seconds to go from one exercise to another. And considering most of you are spending 3 minutes on Instagram between sets, what's 10 or 15 seconds? Another problem so many of us don't realize when it comes to buying pieces of equipment or attachments is how we are going to store them. Unless it is easily placed on a pegboard, you're gonna have to figure out where you're gonna put it and if it's gonna be in your way. Now, the leg extension, leg curl attachment, they show as simply being placed up against the upright storage of the Hyper Pro. And while that's probably where you're going to store it, you do have to remember that's going to cut into your home gym space. And the third issue I have with the leg extension and leg curl is that they claim you can do upper body training. They've got some attachments so that you can do bicep curls, one arm rows, tricep extensions, and that's never gonna happen. The truth is, if you didn't have any other pieces of home gym equipment, you absolutely could use that as a way to train biceps and triceps. But the positioning of it is gonna be a bit more awkward. And if you already have free weights in your home gym or even a functional trainer, there's no way you're gonna bother. And the number one elephant in the room, cost. This thing is expensive, and when you compare it to any specific individual piece of equipment, yeah, it's going to look outrageous. Now, the absolute hooligans over at Freak Athlete throw gasoline on the fire by charging shipping. And as a red-blooded, cheap American, that goes against everything I believe in. And while I know free shipping is not free, if you're smart enough to design a piece of equipment like the Hyper Pro, then you're smart enough to work shipping into the cost of the product, especially if I'm gonna be spending over $1,000. The base price for the Hyper Pro comes in as of today at $800, but there's a little caveat, and that is the GHD pad attachment. This is a must-have when it comes to this piece of equipment, and it really should be sold as part of the Hyper Pro, as part of the package, because it offers so much and it's so integral to this machine. I don't imagine, or I wouldn't recommend having this machine without it. As of today, this thing costs you, I think, an additional $170. Why I think they did that is simply to keep the base price down so that when they have their marketing ads on Facebook and Instagram and they throw up that price point, you don't get turned off by an additional $170. It is easy for us to imagine the Freak Athlete owners sitting on their ivory tower, smoking their cigars after they light them with $100 bills. But they're not in it for a money grab. They could have easily just kept collecting a paycheck by selling their old version of the Freak Athlete, which is amazing. But they went ahead and they delivered an improved version with more attachments. And all of those attachments are backwards compatible. All of those upgrades you can use on the previous model. And they went a step further and even provided an upgrade kit. And now it's time. It is time for my final and honest thoughts of the Hyper Pro. And yes, it is expensive, but it's expensive for a reason. It is a premium product that replaces a number of pieces of equipment that you probably couldn't afford and you probably don't have the space for in your home gym as well. And this thing is going to deliver a number of fantastic exercises. And while they're not all going to be perfect in terms of replacing their counterparts, they are going to get the job done. And this is something you're going to be using consistently week in and week out. Now, are you going to be doing 30 different exercises with this thing? Probably not. You're probably going to have 4 or 5 of your favorites that you're going to use, but that's going to make it worth it in and of itself. Now, I've had a bunch of versions of this for over a year now, and I still use it 3, sometimes 4 times a week, usually with Nordic curls, GHD sit-ups, lower back raises, hip thrusts, and occasionally, even though I don't like to admit it, a split squat. And my only 2 complaints have to be the GHD pad. They sell it as an accessory, but it's so integral to the Hyper Pro, they should be just selling it along with the base unit. And the other complaint is, of course, that shipping. Again, if you're smart enough to make a beautiful piece of engineered equipment like this, you should be smart enough to work shipping into the cost. If you have an older version, should you upgrade? Now, I love the fact that the owners have a way to upgrade. They're not just hosing their old clients. But the reality is you don't need to upgrade. The older version works exactly the same, and it is sturdy enough, and it has a beautiful range of motion. You can do all of the exercises. And if you wanted to just get the leg extension and leg curl machine attachment, that is backwards compatible, so you could just go ahead and do that. The YouTube artificial intelligence knows you're gonna love these 2 home gym videos to watch next. As usual, thanks for watching, and don't save anything for the trip back.